In all honesty, I've never really cared about starting room challenges. I've got nothing against them, they just never really sparked my interest. And I really don't care about limited time modes in video games because even if they are really fun, I don't want to get invested in something that's just going to be arbitrarily taken away. But then the starting rooms LTM was added to Black Ops 6 and it piqued my interest, so I decided to give it a shot. As I'm sure you can imagine, the whole premise of this mode is that you're trapped in a map's starting room, where you can only use whatever is available in that room to survive. It's nothing crazy, people have been doing these challenges since the beginning, and yet I find myself having a lot of fun with it because it is a pure survival experience, where the one and only objective is to make that big red number in the corner of your screen as big as possible. Very reminiscent of classic zombies. Now, it's no secret that over the years, Zombies has become more and more accessible so that a larger number of people can experience all that it has to offer. And on the surface, that sounds great. I love this mode, and I want more people to play it. But it comes at the cost of making survival in this survival game easier and less rewarding. What once was a challenging and chaotic experience has largely become a routine to be followed. And I would say that this is mostly to do with lifting a lot of the restrictions that used to be placed on the players. Back in the day, you could only have up to 4 perks. You had to hope that the mystery box would give you the best guns. You even had to turn on the power before you could start using the utilities around the map. All things that created more of a challenge, added more variety to each match, and generally got you to be more engaged with the gameplay, especially when you were dealt a bad hand. Recent entries in this franchise have done away with a lot of these restrictions, but the starting rooms LTM brings them back by taking away core gameplay mechanics. If something cannot be obtained in that map's first room, or through a gobblegum, then you simply don't get to have it. Those highly optimized strategies that you're used to are no longer applicable, and suddenly, survival isn't just solely dependent on killing zombies, but also making do with the limited resources that are available. And being able to overcome these additional obstacles that the map will throw at you makes reaching the higher rounds feel like more of an accomplishment. Additionally, no two starting rooms play exactly the same, something that the maps as a whole in this game have been criticized for. Terminus, for example, is the smallest one and offers you next to nothing. Success largely comes down to how effective your loadout weapon is, how good you are at training zombies in tight spaces, and whether or not that GS45 wall buy goes up in rarity. On Citadel, you get to play in a much larger space where you can find a level 2 armor wall buy, a crafting bench to build more grenades, score streaks, and most importantly self-revives, as well as the Wonder Fizz starting on round 25, giving you direct access to all the perks. And then there's the Tomb, which is the only starting room that gives you access to the Pack-a-Punch machine. And that's the cool thing about this particular LTM that sets it apart from a regular spawn room challenge. Any features that are present in that spawn room will be active by default, like the Pack-a-Punch and the Mystery Box, both of which add more depth to the progression than there would be in a regular spawn room challenge. But the Mystery Box was a particularly good addition to this mode. Modern Zombies has often been criticized for making the Mystery Box useless. But here in the starting rooms LTM, not only is it the best way to get higher rarity weapons if there's no arsenal machine available, but it's also the only way to get any wonder weapons, which turns it into one of the most essential tools for your survival, just like in the older games. And if you're unaware, the way that the box works in these modern games is that the guns themselves are mostly randomized, the seasonal weapons do still have a higher chance of appearing, but the rarity of those weapons is influenced by the round. It is certainly possible to get a ray gun in the map's wonder weapon on your first 2 spins, and it is pretty cool when that happens, but more likely than not, you're going to be cycling through a wide array of progressively better weapons until you finally get the ones that you want, which will sometimes include guns that you wouldn't normally use, and sometimes guns that you just don't like. But when those are the best options available to you, then you just make do with them, which I think is far more fun than just using the same loadout weapon all game. The same can also be said about the perks in this mode. Since you don't have access to a majority of the perk machines, the random perk power-up was added to the drop pool, providing you with the opportunity to enhance yourself with all these different abilities, and once again adding more depth to the progression than there would be in a standard spawn room challenge. But the catch is that you don't get to choose when and in what order you acquire these perks. There are some that you'll want sooner rather than later, like Juggernog, but ultimately you have no control over it. You can get any one of the 11 available perks in this game, which, if I've done the math right, comes out to 2,047 potential combinations, each of which will have a different effect on your playstyle. Except Death Perception, that's like not having a perk at all. Gameplay-wise, this is completely different than the 4-perk limit from classic Zombies, but it does still give you that sense of limitation of having to make the most of what you do have because you can't have it all. Well, technically you can, but it would take a long time. Plus, it pairs pretty nicely with the reduced zombie damage for the first 10 rounds, and the armor if it is available, because it makes Juggernog less of an essential perk and playing without it is more viable. Something that I think could have made for some really interesting strategies if there were still a perk limit in these games, but at least we kind of get to see what could have been in this LTM. Also, because perks, armor, and the Pack-a-Punch machine aren't always available, I don't have to worry about saving up hundreds of thousands of points to be able to afford everything. So I am free to spend those points on traps instead. Something that I wouldn't normally do because you lose money on traps, and I'd rather get the full value for my kills. But here, the kills that the trap would get are far more valuable than the points I lose, so I use them as often as I can. I even strategize around them. So all these restrictions and limitations really help to make the survival aspect of this game more interesting, more like how it was in classic Zombies. But this limited time mode takes it further than just the gameplay. Some of the other alterations, whether intentionally or not, make it feel tonally closer to classic Zombies as well. For example, the lack of exfil, which is a mechanic that I do like as an alternative to quitting or letting yourself die, and you don't have to use it if you don't want to, but I won't deny that it has had a pretty detrimental effect on the atmosphere of these games. Because you are never truly trapped in these horrific environments. There's always a helicopter that's ready to pull you out whenever you've decided that you've had enough. But when that option is taken away from you, it makes the whole situation feel a lot more grim. Right from the beginning, your fate has been sealed. Your fight for survival is ultimately hopeless, and you will meet a bloody, violent, and painful ending. Something that is really emphasized by those awesome death scenes. Radio characters are also disabled, so nobody's yapping in your ear the whole time, which really helps to bring back that feeling of isolation on these maps. But what I've also found is that it makes the character that I'm playing as stand out more. I feel like I can hear more of their dialogue, probably because they're the only human voice left. And because of this, I've developed a much greater appreciation for Carver. He's actually pretty funny. But I think my favorite thing about this mode is that, on Terminus, Liberty Falls, and Shattered Vale, all starting rooms without a crafting bench or an arsenal, there are no salvage drops. And while I do generally enjoy salvage as a mechanic, not having all that extra clutter to pick up is actually really nice. Especially in between rounds, because instead of having to worry about collecting all those green scrap piles, you just get a moment to relax. To have a break in the action before the next wave begins. Maybe take in some of the sights and sounds that you may otherwise overlook. Well, it'd be better without this cartoon filter, but you know what I mean. It also helps that a lot of the long-term forms of progression in this game, like buying all the perks and upgrading your weapons and armor, may also not be available. And even if they are, you never have to travel far for them, giving you even less to worry about in between rounds. And I think that this might be the biggest reason that Black Ops 6 Zombies feels so overwhelming at times. Not so much because of how fast and numerous the zombies are, but rather because that lull that you're supposed to get after every round has been filled with all sorts of other tasks, keeping your mind running constantly with no breaks. The limited play space also prevents zombies from constantly respawning around you, which makes the rounds themselves a bit less chaotic. I really like how I can stand still for more than a few seconds at a time. Though it's not perfect, zombies will still respawn closer to you sometimes. Ironically, it seems to happen most often on Terminus. There have been plenty of times where I tried to run a horde through the trap only to have them reappear on the other side. I don't know for sure, but I think it has to do with the different named areas. I think that they're still considered different rooms even though there is no physical barrier separating them. And if a zombie is too many rooms away, then it'll respawn closer to you, even if it was only a short distance away. Oh, of course, before I forget, the classic round-changing music is also very nostalgic. I appreciate that, Treyarch. So overall, I love this mode. But sadly, at the time that I'm making this, Season 4 is about to end and The Reckoning is about to release, so they're probably about to take it away from me. And I couldn't be more sad about it. I wish that I had spent more time playing it than making this video about it. At least I can still do regular spawn room challenges even though they're not quite the same, but I really hope that they eventually bring this back. Actually, no, I don't want starting rooms back. I want them to revamp it into a survival mode, just like we had in Black Ops 2, with the exact same rule set but also playable on the grief maps as well. If they gave us that and made it a permanent mode, I would be pretty satisfied.